It's time for Access the Experts from the University of Nebraska at Omaha with your host, Brandon Axement.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Access the Experts on News Channel Nebraska, where every Tuesday and Thursday, University of Nebraska at Omaha faculty members answer today's questions facing our state. Now today we have the pleasure of hearing from Dr. Scott Tarry, who is director and a professor at UNO's Aviation Institute. So Scott, today's question is, what impact has COVID had on airports across the state of Nebraska?
Thanks, Brandon, for that very timely question. I think the best way to answer the question is to break it down in terms of the kinds of airports and the types of aviation operations that typically go on in Nebraska. When most Nebraskans think about aviation, they naturally think of Omaha's Epley Airfield or the Lincoln Airport, or one of the other smaller commercial service airports across the state. It's not a surprise since the major airlines are the way that most people experience aviation. But it's important for everyone to remember that aviation is more than just the airlines. There are other types of aviation that play an important role in the prosperity of communities across the state. Clearly, the airlines have been significantly impacted by COVID. It's been in the news. We've all seen it. For the nation as a whole, passenger numbers are still around a third of what they were at this same time last year. That's a significant loss of revenue for both the airlines and the airports. While airlines have canceled flights, changed schedules, fewer passengers in the airport mean fewer people paying for parking, buying food, buying beverages, going to the retail stores. These are important revenue streams for commercial service airports. And especially now, since the airlines are not operating as frequently, there's less revenue from the airlines as well. The rest of the airports around Nebraska, and there are over 90 public use airports across the state, we see business has been affected in different ways. If we break the operations at those airports down, we can do that in four categories: cargo, charter and business aviation, flight training, and then aerial application or crop dusting. Cargo and aerial application really haven't been touched directly by COVID. They don't involve moving people around, so it really hasn't been much of a break in their business. Flight training, which we do quite a bit of as part of our program here at UNO, we had to suspend that 2 months earlier this year due to COVID. We were able to implement some health safety protocols and resume flight training, and we've been able to do that successfully for the last few months. Charter and corporate aviation, a little different path, and it's kind of interesting. At first, the folks who could afford to fly on a chartered aircraft or on their own private jet and avoid the busy commercial airports or the commercial airlines, they were able to do that. They could afford it, but they realized that they didn't have places to go because there were quarantines and restrictions and closures at their destinations. Now that's changed over the summer, but now we're starting to see some of those restrictions creep back in. I think the conventional wisdom now for aviation is that people are going to be more likely to travel once a vaccine is widely available. And unfortunately, that may still take some time. And the recent surge in the rate of infections and hospitalizations is likely to continue to put a strain on the state's commercial service airports and the airlines that serve them.
Well, thank you, Scott, for sharing your expertise on a topic that will help Nebraskans know what to expect when they plan to fly during the pandemic. For our viewers at home, we want you to interact with UNO's experts. So if you have a question you want answered, go to newschannelnebraska.com and click on the Access the Experts link to submit your question. It may just be answered by a UNO expert on an upcoming edition. We'll see you next time.
Access the Experts, presented by the University of Nebraska at Omaha. If you have questions, submit them on our website. Then join us every Tuesday and Thursdays at 6:46 a.m. and p.m. while we answer your questions.